Hi, I'm Figment, and this is a follow-up to my previous video on compression. The last video I did was a very brief, extremely brief overview of compression. Today we're going to dive a little bit deeper in and start expanding on some ideas. Um, Today we're going to talk specifically about the Comp 101, but I want to let you know that these concepts we're going to talk about today, they do not apply solely to the Comp 01. You should be able to look at any compressor, the M-class compressor, or even if you have a friend that has a physical compressor, you should be able to look at any compressor. You should probably see these parameters we're going to go over, and you should know how to use them. After today, that is. But you definitely know how to be able to use the Comp 01, that's for sure. So, last time I mentioned that a compressor is some device that has audio run through it, and it controls the dynamics and volume for that audio signal. That's true. Today we're going to talk about the Comp 101, like I said, and we're going to have a subtractor run through it. It's not really going to create any audio, but it's just there for visual purposes. But for those of you that stuck with me so far in this video, I want to tell you guys today is a special day for me and for all of us here, because I want to be honest with you guys and let you guys know that I have aids, visual aids. I just drew them today. You have to excuse the crudity and rushness of them, but they're just useful because they're going to help me explain what a threshold is, what a ratio is, and so on and so forth. So, pretending that that subtractor is on and it's running through that compressor, or any device is running and it's on, it's running through a compressor, you have an audio signal. In this case, this audio signal will represent the subtractor's output. Now, a compressor has something called a threshold. We'll start with there first. The threshold is a volume level, if you will. It's a volume level that it is just like set to it. Like in this case, we could say this is 4 dB right here at 4 dB. And you can adjust that threshold so it's at maybe 6 dB, 9 dB, 7 dB, 2 dB. It's a sliding number. It doesn't change the volume of the audio signal. It's just a setting for where the threshold exists. So let's bring that threshold back to, I don't know, what was that, 4 dB maybe I said? And what the threshold represents is the I don't want to use the word in the definition. It represents the point on the volume scale when the compressor will actually activate. And it activates when audio crosses that threshold. So right now, in this case, let's pretend this audio is peaking out here. It's I can't have this graphic move, but pretend it's bouncing up and down, but it's peaking off at maybe 5 dB. That looks like, right? So if this threshold is up here at 4 dB, the compressor will not. The audio just passes through the compressor unaffected. Nothing happens. Now, if we were to lower that threshold to a point where we know the audio will pass through it, let's go to 8 dB, let's say. Now the audio will bounce up and down, cross the threshold, and the compressor will be activated when the audio breaks the threshold or crosses the threshold. So the thing to know about the threshold is that's the volume point when the threshold, when the compressor will do anything, will activate, will turn on. If it's, you know, if the audio breaks through it or crosses it, it turns on. If the threshold is high enough where the audio never reaches it, the compressor never does anything and nothing happens. Okay. Um, then you have a ratio. And here we have 1 to 1, 2 to 1, 4 to 1, 16 to 3, and all these variations in between. What the ratio does is when that threshold is crossed, let's go back down to 8 dB. When that threshold is crossed by the audio signal, the compressor first will reduce the volume of the signal that's coming through. And the ratio sets how much the volume will be reduced by a ratio of 2 to 1 or 4 to 1 or 1 to 1. Basically what that means is, I don't want to, well, what it means is, let's say for every 2 dB, if it's set to 2 to 1, let's say for every 2 dB over the threshold, it will reduce that volume down to 1 dB. Let's say for every 4 dB over, 4 to 1, it will reduce the volume down as if it was 1 dB. So it's a harsher, as the ratio gets higher, it's a harsher cut. Every 16 dB, 16 to 1, and so on and so forth, over the threshold. Everything under the threshold will not be affected, of course. So that volume will remain the same, but it affects what crosses over, what is going beyond the threshold. The ratio sets how the volume will be reduced, by what amount. So the threshold and the ratio are working together, like I said. The threshold sets the point in which the compressor kicks in. The ratio sets the amount. Now that the now that the compressor is on, the ratio sets by how much the volume will be reduced. Okay. And here we have attack and release. I'm going to try and hurry these guys up. If you remember from the subtractor series, I did go over an envelope. An envelope is kind of where I learned about ADSR from. So if you saw the subtractor series, then you'll pretty much get what these two knobs do. But quickly, briefly, and easily, let's say the threshold is here at 8 dB. The volume crosses it. Now, you would think instantly, okay, it's crossed it instantly now, let's reduce volume. That's usually the case. But what attack does is it sets it's a time-based parameter that says, okay, when the threshold is crossed, I still want you to reduce it by, let's say, I don't know, 2 to 1, or I don't know, let's say 3 to 1, or whatever is here, right? I still want you to, when it's crossed, I want you to reduce the volume by this ratio. The attack sets how long until that reduction happens. If the attack is set to 0, it happens instantly the minute audio breaks the threshold. As you raise that attack time up a couple milliseconds or so, it might say, okay, when it breaks, wait 50 milliseconds, then kick in, let the ratio kick in and reduce volume. And then the higher, same deal, wait maybe 100 milliseconds or 200 milliseconds or something of that nature. But after the threshold has been crossed, then reduce volume. Release works the same way, except it's not in the wait how long to turn on, but how long to turn off. And it's still a time-based parameter set to milliseconds. You're never going to get attack and release that's going to have wait 30 seconds and then do whatever it is you have to do. So that does cover, I think that covers threshold, ratio, attack, and release. This is a very, oh, this makeup gain. Forgot about that. We are over the 10-minute marker. I don't really want to. Okay, makeup gain is kind of very easy. It's not on here because it has an auto gain, so it just is built in, but we'll go over that with the M class compressor. Actually, you know what? We'll just go over it with the M class compressor. We are over 10 minutes, and I don't want to give you guys 20 minutes of just me talking. So we'll end here, and I will cover makeup gain in the next video. I promise. Until then, keep experimenting, guys. Go play with some compressors, have some fun, and just make some music. I'll talk to you guys later.